What's up, y'all? My name is Jonathan Voos, and I am a sophomore baseball player at Austin College and a contributor at Lone Conservative. I hope you'll check out this week's episode of The Sam Mo Show.
Happy Thanksgiving, San Martians. Welcome back to the Sam Mo Show. I'm your host with the San Most, Cleveland, and joining me today for our Turkey Day special is Austin College sophomore, contributor for the Lone Conservative, and a longtime friend of mine, Jon Voos. Jon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cleveland. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing well. Just got back from the long drive. Just so y'all know, Austin College is not actually in Austin, Texas. It is in Sherman, Texas, which is about 30 minutes from Oklahoma, so got about a 5 to 7 hour drive depending on Dallas and Austin to get back to the San Antonio area. So
yeah, and I appreciate you making the drive up here to San Marcos to come see me and come on for this Thanksgiving special. So for the listeners, you might be thinking to yourself, wow, that Thanksgiving dinner went pretty well, and hey, we didn't even talk politics. Well, we're here to cover that for you. We're going to have a little bit of arguing about politics, talking football, all the Thanksgiving stuff you may have missed out on this Thanksgiving. So firstly, you're a contributor for the Lone Conservative, right?
Yeah. So Lone Conservative is an organization mostly made up of high school and college students. It was primarily founded to talk about political biases on campus, but has expanded into a group of over 200 contributors that write about various topics ranging from football to politics, of course, to just general opinion pieces on what's happening in our day. There's not just conservatives, there's some moderates, libertarians, independents. It's a good mix of people, very great group. They have lots of opportunities and connections, so if you're a conservative or a libertarian listening to this, please apply. I can send Cleveland the link below, and he can maybe link it below the video if you want. It's up to him, but it's a great opportunity, lots of great connections. I'm actually getting the chance to go to Israel for free this December through them.
Really? Very awesome. Cool. What was it? A couple of months ago, didn't Trump quote tweet your editor? Right?
Yeah, Cassie Dillon is the founder of Lone Conservative. She worked at Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's publication, for a period of time. Also, after founding Lone Conservative, she's doing her own marketing thing now in addition to running Lone Conservative. But yeah, so it was something about.
Was it like someone with Yang, right?
Yeah, so she said something about, I wouldn't vote for Yang, but I'd vote for Trump, but I wouldn't be his friend. I wouldn't vote for Yang, but I would be his friend. Something about
Trump's
that.
Like, I'm cool with that. Yeah. I was like, this is a very small world. That was a very weird small world moment. So, Lone Conservative talks mainly about the conservative politics, stuff like that, on campuses. So we've had this recent debacle here at Texas State, where there was a biased test question, or at least an accused biased test question on an exam. It was it was an intro to film class.
Intro to philosophy or
intro to film. So
okay.
I think it falls technically under the English department. This one, that's like the coding, but
that's weird. We have a separate media studies degree. So something like that's what ours would fall under. But
I guess so it falls under English. Yeah, I made the mistake last episode, so I want to correct that. It falls under the English department, not poli-sci. But the movie was the test was over the movie The Black Klansman. The Spike Lee movie. And it was asking questions, about just some of the plot stuff, also some like the deeper meanings and some of the stuff that, Lee was trying to communicate through the movie. And one of the questions was essentially asking what, basically it was in regards to Trump and the KKK, saying like, because they both used in the movie and I guess modern times they used Make America Great Again.
Okay.
And so they were arguing like what was Lee basically trying to convey with this, and one of the apparently the correct answer was C, that it was KKK in principle.
Yeah, that doesn't sound correct to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm on the fence. I don't think it was I don't think it was a fair question per se. But at the same time, I don't think it was worth the fuss it caused.
Is it asking what Spike Lee was trying to portray, or what? I mean, what's
that was the thing. I don't think the question was worded very appropriately. I can pull it up real quick.
I'd rather.
I'll read it verbatim to you real quick.
Yeah, please do, so I can analyze that fairly.
Yeah, let me see that real quick.
Like, I mean, as you know, I'm not a big Trump supporter in terms of compared to the rest of my more conservative peers. I'm more of an independent conservative than anything else is what I'd call myself. I'm still on the fence about who I'm voting for in 2020. It won't be a Democrat, but I'm not sure if it'll be Trump.
Yeah. You think about voting for a libertarian?
Probably not. Libertarians are weird. Sorry.
Have you seen that? There was this, I think I said to you. Where,
so the libertarian ideology isn't bad, but the Libertarian Party is such a joke. It's just like...
Yeah, no, it's... personally, I support Vermin Supreme for president.
Yeah, I was
but the... what was it? Libertarian, like, primary debate. And one of the questions was, hey, should people be required to operate a vehicle? Do they need a federally issued license or state issued license to operate a car, basically like a driver's license? And, you know, of course, I wouldn't make fun of libertarians as much as I do sometimes if they didn't make it so easy.
It's so easy.
Yeah, so like one's like, hell no. The other one's like, what's next? A license to toast in my damn toaster? And then Gary Johnson's like, well, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to, you know, somebody to distribute at least a little bit of competency if we're getting on the road. He gets booed by everybody.
It's so funny. Like
I'm trying to find this tweet. Hold on, I can.
Like most libertarians I know that call themselves libertarians are either hardcore Trump supporters or like Tulsi Gabbard. Like none of them actually are vote for the Libertarian Party, which is weird. Because the Libertarian Party ends up getting like 3-4% of the vote in some years. Like, it's just,
well, I mean, especially 2016.
Yeah, well, there weren't great options in 2016. I think we can both agree on that. Yeah,
absolutely. Let's see if I can find it.
With the emergence of social media and stuff, it's just taking things to where we all seem like we hate each other instead of actually trying to have nice conversation. Social media tends to emphasize the extreme voices, so you see a lot of cases in which people are trying to own the cons or own the libs rather than actually trying to engage in a good civil discourse.
People are always trying to make plays for Twitter clout. I agree with that. Okay, so I found the question. Okay, so sorry, I did word this wrong. So number 33 says, what is true about America First slogan in film and present day? That was the question.
Okay.
And so it was A, it's a made-up anachronism. B, Nancy Johnson founded it in 1978 Sun article. It's cut off at the end, I think is what it's saying. And then C was President Trump's slogan is KKK in principle, and that was apparently the right answer. And so one of the students took out his phone and took a picture of the exam, which could get him in a lot of trouble. Just right off the bat. But so the Texas College Republicans Twitter picked that up and published it, and it's gotten a lot of traction from it. So I wanted to kind of get your take on both that scenario here and then, I guess, conservatives on campus in general. Like, what do you think about that?
So in this particular scenario, I don't appreciate tying... So the America First slogan has been picked up by some alt-right, neo-Nazi groups. Like, there's no doubt about that. Lone conservative actually has been under a lot of attack on Twitter from these groups. Nicholas Fuentes is one of the... I don't remember exactly. He's the leader of the quote-unquote Groyper movement. That's actually their name. They call it
what?
Groyper. Yeah, Groyper. It's an alt-right neo-Nazi group. They've been coming after Cassie, our founder, and a few other people who are basically crapping on the alt-right because, the alt-right is just like there. So I don't appreciate at all things like this that try and tie more of a mainstream conservative movement to these bottom dwellers that are in the alt-right, that are the white nationalists, white supremacists. There's nothing good about these people. And I could see that, Trump occasionally throws a bone to him. I don't like that at all. I don't, but he's thoroughly condemned David Duke, Richard Spencer, people like that. He's actually gone on tape and said he's disassociated with themselves with them. Now,
but it's still odd that they like him so much. That's the weird paradigm.
They're doing whatever they can to get attention. So by tying themselves to Trump and by trying to tie themselves to a bigger movement, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get, and the far left and people in the media sometimes play their game. Like instead of just condemning them and saying these people are bad, they try and tie them to the conservative movement as a whole, and like trying to say all conservatives are this, which is not at all the case. Those people are not conservative in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I've noticed over the past probably decade, there's been more of an obsession with political purity, and always on both sides of the aisle, where it's like, oh, you're not liberal enough, or you're not progressive enough, or you're not far right enough, you're not conservative enough, and it seems like I think it's largely contributing to the divide. I think social media plays into that because I think the loudest voice in the room is often the one that ends up winning the conversation. And
in a lot of cases, yeah.
Yeah, when you have these crowded primaries for both, I guess, Democrats and Republicans, I mean, you're going to usually, the one who makes the biggest splash is typically going to be the one that gets the most attention. And
I mean, Trump generated so much free media coverage for just saying stuff.
Yeah, because CNN and MSNBC would just run the story.
Democrats like Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, people like that just saying stuff like, Elizabeth Warren's healthcare plan, I'm sorry, there's no way it's fiscally possible and no way it's actually going to pass in Congress, I don't think.
I think Warren is losing a lot of ground, I think, with both people who are undecided and her own parties, because I don't want to say it's blatant dishonesty, but she refuses to admit she's going to raise taxes on the middle class.
Yeah, which that's just,
you can't
it's so
not
blatantly
do that.
obvious.
Here's what I mean. Bernie's at least honest about it.
Yeah, I agree.
And Bernie, the argument is, hey, we're going to raise taxes on your, healthcare expenses, but on the back end, you'll end up paying less under my plan because you're going to basically not have to pay for the medical bills and expenses like that. So they're essentially saying it's going to be a trade-off.
Warren's just saying berries and unicorns and ponies are all...
It'll work because I say it'll work.
And we're just going to tax those 1%ers who actually don't even make up enough to cover like 1 or 2 years worth of the plan.
No, it is a mess. And I think really in a lot of ways, Warren has just kind of stolen Bernie's style. Because Bernie's been doing this for a lot longer.
Oh, for sure.
And he even said during the debate, like I think it was the second debate, he's like, I wrote the damn bill. Like he knows, like I know what Medicare for All is because I wrote it. And all these other people are just trying to run with it and tell him what it's not. And he's like, no, I know what it is.
And it's been interesting to see other Democrats like Kamala and Buttigieg and stuff moving back towards they realized they overextended how far left they were trying to run in the primaries, and as a result have been trying to shift back, or people like Beto
Beto's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's, personally, for as much as I supported him during the Senate race, I think it's for the better he dropped out of the presidential race, because he was really just trying to have his, like, viral moment kind of thing, and it just kept blowing up in his face, and in a lot of ways, I mean, after he said, the hell yes, we're taking away your AR-15s, I mean, he's going to be the NRA poster boy for the next 10 years because of that one line. And I mean, soon enough, his face was everywhere in conservative media just because you can paint him as the bad guy because he explicitly said what the conservatives were already thinking, like when they were considering voting for a Democrat. So, I don't know. I think it is interesting, though, how Kamala and Pete and some of the other Democrats have kind of moved more centrist now because they know they can't really compete in the progressive market with big presences like Bernie, I'd argue Yang, too. In a lot of ways. Well, Yang has almost a cult of personality across the political spectrum.
Yang's is more there was a interesting deal I was reading from, I want to say someone at 538 that showed where people were pulling their support from. Like, Yang pulled his support, like, equally from, like, Bernie and Biden's it's just kind of, he's all over the place. I mean, there's a lot of moderates who support him also, even though, like, not his policies, at least some of the policies he endorses aren't necessarily moderate. I mean, some of them are pretty far left. Some of them are also stuff that conservatives don't agree with. He has a wide range of stuff. And it's but his is more a populist grassroots support more than anything else, I think. Like, they support him because he's very positive. I mean, he's like, I mean, it doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah, and he doesn't attack, and he doesn't really get attacked either. Warren tried stepping to him last debate, and she ended up backfiring. She's actually reading his book right now because of that. Because, she was like, I don't even know how all that works. He's like, well, I do. I wrote a whole book on it. So apparently she's been reading his book. So, I mean, that is nice. So I want to get your thoughts on did you watch the last Democratic debate?
I did not. I followed. I saw the lowlights. But.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there wasn't much. It was. Yeah,
it was the lowest rated debate.
It was a pretty poor debate. To this point,
yeah.
I mean, Yang waited 32 minutes before he even got one question, and I think that is incredibly unfair, and that's why he started the whole hashtag boycott MSNBC because they asked him to come on and talk. He said, "No, I'm done," because he has like over 10 examples where they've either left his name off graphics. Or failed, or they even called him John Yang one time live on air.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and
it's not that hard to do.
It's really not. It's Andrew Yang. It's not even a complex name. So they called him John Yang on air. And of course, the moderators didn't give him almost any time. And despite that, I think he had a very strong performance at the debate. His closing statement was great. If you're curious about that, please look that up. It is a great closing statement. In like 2 minutes, I think he really kind of won over the room.
Yeah, I'll be honest. In my opinion, the less politicians talk, the better they do. So that I mean, in the debate, you obviously need to talk, but
I mean,
it's the more a politician talks, or the more a politician puts themselves in the spotlight, the harder it is for me to like them, because they're just inevitably going to say stupid stuff that they've been trying not to say for long.
So kind of on the same note of the Democratic field, if you were, I guess, since you have probably more of a pulse in the conservative field than I do, who do you think conservatives are fearing the most coming out of the Democratic field? Like worried that they're going to lose the election if this person runs.
So there are two different schools of thought on this. So the first one is that generally Trump's going to win unless a moderate, basically Trump's going to win unless Biden wins the nomination, is the first field's thought. Like, they're thinking that a moderate is the only one who can beat Trump, because Trump's numbers among independents in polls, and now head-to-head polls at this point aren't necessarily the most accurate. However, Trump's numbers in a head-to-head poll among independents with Biden are significantly worse than they were against Hillary. And it was Trump won over more independents than Hillary did, which is what ultimately won the election. Now, independents, according to David Brooks of the New York Times, he's somewhat moderate conservative columnist who cares a lot. He writes mainly on civil discourse, which is, something I like a lot, obviously.
Yeah, of course,
But his theory is that around 40% of Americans call themselves independents. However, 25 to 30% of those people, of that 40%, 25 to 30%,
consistently vote one way or the other.
They're quote unquote closet partisans, so they're about that's probably what I would call. I'm probably in that crowd.
Am too. I don't identify with it. I've never voted for a Republican in my life, but I can still call myself an independent, mainly because I don't want to feel like you're taking me for granted, that you have my vote secured, because I won't. But it's I'll walk, I'll do it, I'll go over there. And
I actually have voted for a Democrat, but to be fair, there was no Republican running in that. I'm in District 28 with Henry Cuellar, so it was Henry Cuellar or a Libertarian candidate. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
Henry Cuellar is at least pro-life and relatively moderate, so for me that was okay, I'll vote for the Democrat. I have no problem with that.
So do you think the pro-life, pro-choice debate, that's one area that you're a single issue voter on? Is that enough to completely sway your vote?
I'm not a single issue voter.
But if there's one,
that's probably the,
if there's one issue that can make or break a candidate for you.
For a lot of evangelical Christians, yes, the pro-life that's why there are very few Democrats that I will vote for. But if it comes to voting for somebody like a Roy Moore or a Steve King and a Democrat who's pro, I'd vote for the Democrat, because those people are either the white nationalist type or actual pedophiles. I'm not going to vote for somebody.
That's always been the weird thing. I've seen this weird alliance, because the evangelicals love and support Trump. Despite
it's
Trump being
weird. I agree.
About as far from Christian as you can really be in terms of his actions.
I agree. Yeah.
I'm sure it's because mainly Mike Pence signed on, and they're more behind Pence. But
Trump, in regards to that, he's remade the courts essentially. 1/4 of the circuit court judges have been nominated by Trump. So that's a lot more conservative rulings on things like that, or at least constitutional. Conservative judges aren't as blindly partisan as liberal judges, in my opinion. Meaning they're more willing to go by the Constitution. Now there's definitely a way to test that. I don't have the evidence to back this up, so please do your research if you disagree with me.
Yeah.
But
I think there's a lot to be said. I think the lower courts you get to, I think eventually it starts just coming down to just less political bias.
I was actually reading a piece by David French, formerly of the National Review, now at the Dispatch this morning, and he was talking about why he was sort of analyzing why evangelical Christians don't support Pete Buttigieg, who himself he's probably one of the only actually practicing Christians in the race on. Since Trump's basically the only one, I don't claim to know anything about his beliefs or views.
His favorite book's the Bible, apparently. That's what
he could change. hoping that's true. I'm hoping, but I haven't
Yeah.
seen that shift in his rhetoric yet.
No.
Like the different like you've seen a huge difference in Kanye just over the past year.
Yeah,
I haven't really
Kanye's
seen something like that in
made a
Trump.
shift.
Not that Kanye is necessarily the banner for what a Christian should look like, but I mean,
I always steer clear of those Kanye opinions because I don't know enough about Kanye in general to have a genuinely relevant opinion, and he's such a polarizing figure that like I don't even want to step in that water.
Yeah.
So I'm like, because people whenever Kanye comes up are ready to just throw at each other, and I'm like, I have no horse in this race. I could care less what Kanye does personally.
Yeah, but like I was saying with the Buttigieg stuff, like David French was talking about how Buttigieg he's an Episcopalian Christian, so that's more like a quote unquote mainline Protestant is how that's classified versus evangelical Protestant, Catholic. Those are like the three main sects. Main lines would be Episcopalians, Presbyterians, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But those voters who are people who are mainline Protestants tend to be more left wing than Catholics or even and especially than evangelical Christians, and just you can tell Pete's pretty genuine in his faith. Like, he believes what he's saying, but what he's saying doesn't actually resonate with evangelical Christians because the belief systems are just so different. Like, and then stuff like he made some comment about how you're not a good Christian if you don't support raising the minimum wage, stuff like that. He's not pro-life, and he is gay. I mean, believe what you want about that, but it's generally pretty.
Well, I'm sure it's a
common main. I mean, I don't.
It's probably. I mean, I'm sure it's a make or break for a lot of the Bible Belt voters. I mean, that's just the way things are in this country. I mean, I've never liked the intertwining between church and state in general. I'm very strictly secular on a lot of things when it comes to that. I do think Pete's made some interesting comments about, it's odd that the right has such a monopoly on Christians in a lot of ways. I think that does ultimately come down to the pro-life, pro-choice debate on a lot of that, but it is very interesting that because he's arguing that, like, hey, you can be Christian and a Democrat, which I think is an interesting angle, at least try to get Christian voters to come out and vote for Democrat. I'm not sure how effective he's going to be. I
don't think it will be very effective, but
I just don't like how both sides use biblical text to justify their political stances, because when it comes to, like, raising minimum wage, because people are like, oh, like, well, Jesus, he hung out with the poor. The people try to paint different biblical stories, or they try to twist it to fit their own political narrative. I find that gross. Yeah,
twisting the Bible to fit your political narrative is not in any way, shape, or form the correct thing to do. You should be twisting your politics to fit with the Bible if you're a Christian. Like, you should be, like, if you're looking to how to interpret something, don't take some passage of the Bible out of context and see, like, okay, this is this, so that therefore
this justifies my worldview. Excellent. It's
just you gotta,
and that's interesting, because, like, we come, I think, in terms of the religious spectrum, we're probably on two opposite ends. I'm very much a non-religious person, yet you're very religious, but we still can agree that, hey, twisting any kind of, like, religious scripture to justify political beliefs is very uncool, so maybe don't do it,
or at least in and of itself. Like, you can't do it by, like, if you have, say, other scientific evidence or something like that to back it up, or I mean, it can't be your whole argument. I don't think.
I think, and we were having the God debate for a couple of weeks in my philosophy class, and I said I think it's equally annoying the folks who use religion to claim moral superiority over anybody just on the merit that, hey, I'm Christian, therefore I'm better than you. And I think it's equally annoying that you have those, like, really snarky atheists that just go out of the way. It's like, oh, I'm atheist, therefore I'm intellectually superior to you. I find I'm like, you guys are both the same kind of horrible person. Like, loves to just annoy people for no reason.
Everything has to be a dichotomy. Like, there can't be any nuance.
It's but it's almost like a horseshoe kind of, like, spectrum. Like, you're closer to each other than most people are in the middle. Yeah.
Like, back to what I was saying with the David Brooks stuff earlier. Like, he with talking about the independents and stuff. So those 10% are the ones who are the quote-unquote swing voters, but they don't. But that 85% in the relative middle, like just mainline liberals, traditional conservatives, all the way down to moderates. Those voters generally aren't as loud as the extremes, which would be he classifies them as the progressives and the quote-unquote devoted conservatives. And, like, I think progressives make up about 8% of the electorate, and devoted conservatives make up about 6% of the electorate. But they're probably account for a majority of the content that's on social media and stuff like that. very adamant about their beliefs and don't believe there's any room for nuance or discussion. Like they're right and everyone else is freaking idiot.
Yeah.
It's just sort of...
And so kind of trying to bring it back to the conservatives on college campuses. So in the same sense, what are your thoughts on that? Both, I think, let's take it, I guess we'll start at your home college of Austin College. What's the campus climate like there?
So I'm generally very agreeable in all senses, so I'm not sure if I don't look for victimhood in any way, shape, or form, and I'm generally able to have conversations with anyone, even though I disagree with pretty much everyone. So it's just, that hasn't necessarily been a problem with me. Now, there are certain professors on campus I know to avoid because they're just insane in regards to some of the stuff they believe in pushing their classes. But, I mean, if it's not, I don't need it for my major, I'm just going to avoid those classes. It's not really, like, and then there definitely is a bit of the bubble. Sherman is in one of the reddest districts in Texas.
Oh, man.
Like, House District 4 is with Representative John Ratcliffe, who's very close to Trump and has a lot of influence in the House.
Didn't Trump try to appoint him to something, right?
Yeah,
and it fell through?
Ratcliffe ended up declining the position.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so I guess that proves the connection there.
With that, so Austin College is kind of like a blue dot in the middle of a very red area. But it's interesting, like, in the 2018 Senate election, they were asking who people thought the college Democrats on campus. Our college Republicans actually just got formed this year. I'm not a part of it, but it's a pretty small organization. I mean, like there aren't a lot of members, but the campus Democrats, they did a poll like during election night. There was a watch party in the Pouch Club at Austin College, which is kind of like one of the main hangout places, and they did a poll asking who was going to win both the election between John Ratcliffe and whoever he was running against. I don't even remember the lady's name, and between Cruz and Beto. And I mean, of course, they all thought Beto was going to win. But what really shocked me in a district that's, I mean, 80% of the people vote Republican, I want to say that around 75% of the people there at the watch party thought that whoever the Democrat was going to beat John Ratcliffe, and Ratcliffe ended up winning by 40 points. I mean, it wasn't even close. So it's just, I'm not sure if that was out of spite or just
Republicans have a fantastic ability to be that kind of silent voting majority. They don't make a lot of noise, but they always show up and they always vote, and it's, especially in Texas, it's just a very quiet movement. But like people, I think for part of the reason why, I guess on the completely opposite end of that argument, I guess, because I think people overestimate the ability of Beto to win over national voters. I think it was the reason the race was so close between him and Ted Cruz, just because Ted Cruz was even unliked by a lot of conservatives. So I think that's the reason probably Beto got as much traction as he did that year. But so kind of back on the college campus, do you feel in any way oppressed on college campus from like expressing your views?
Like I said earlier, I personally don't. I don't look for victimhood, and even then I usually am able to have conversation. Now, I have had a few friends on campus who have been called into quote-unquote sensitivity office, like the sensitivity office at school for just saying stuff that's are pretty generic Republican beliefs. Like,
it's, I can see that. I mean, it's dependent. I don't know. I think
Austin College is a pretty good environment. Like, I'm not. It just depends on what you're looking to do. Like, I don't. Like I've already mentioned a few times, I don't look for oppression. It's not. That's not something I'm. Yeah. And even if I do, you can walk away. Like, be an adult.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit tacky because especially the Texas State College Republicans here on campus they've really made a really big fuss out of this. And I think the real irony was that the Young Conservatives were on the quad that same day, and they had a whole Indian teepee set up, and they had Elizabeth Warren next to it because the whole Native American joke with that. But of course they have this like whole teepee and stuff set up, and it's basically like mocking it. But they're like, we can't express our views on campus, we're the real victims. I'm like, you literally posted this an hour ago and you were there for hours on hours there on campus. Now what I do think, because a lot of the student senators were upset about the whole situation in general, and there was some lot of Twitter bickering. I'm going to come out and say this might be an unpopular opinion amongst the student government. I don't think there should be any kind of condemnation towards the young conservatives or college Republicans, because last time we did this, YCT got 60 new recruits. That is the most they've had in years. And it's because when you just create this big fuss, of course, then they can really claim, like, oh, look, student government hates conservatives. Come join the resistance over here. And so I don't think it's worth giving them the attention, because it's obviously to be provocative and to raise a stir in a lot of ways. And I don't think it's a direction we should be... I don't think we should go down to that level and basically join in with the drama with it. I think we need to be above that in student government. I think we need to be above that level of partisanship. Even though I think, really, for the most part, I do think student government has like a left-leaning slant, but it's still relatively balanced. It's just the conservative voices in student government aren't as loud, mainly because they don't put forward any pieces of legislation, for the most part. So that's not an attack on any of the senators. It's just, I've noticed in a lot of ways there has been a lot of complaining from conservatives, even though they have a reasonable amount of votes in the Senate, but they just don't put anything forward. And so I think, for me, it's like, okay, talk the talk, but you don't walk the walk with a lot of stuff. I want to, then fine, show me where it is, write pieces, do some work.
Well, what sort of legislation would they put forward, or would they support?
I mean, the only one that's really, I guess, gone forward this semester was a free speech resolution, which was still very much a broad piece. And I mean, even a lot of the liberal senators voted for it. And I don't know, but I think the main thing really is just for student government in general, if any of the other senators are listening, I don't think this is our hill to die on for. It's like I said, we've already gotten in trouble once this year with all that, so I just don't think it's worth giving that attention to them. But kind of on a transitional point here, this past Saturday, the Yale-Harvard game got suspended at halftime because students from both Yale and Harvard took to the field to protest climate change. And
my eyes are currently rolling out of the back of my head.
Yeah. Okay, so explain your thoughts on that to me.
So, of all things, I mean, when you go to a place like Yale or Harvard or Cal, I mean, it's going to be expected that there's going to be some shenanigans like that. I mean, it's Yale, it's Harvard, it's Cal Berkeley. These sorts of places are obviously very liberal. They have there's a lot of student activists at places like this. So I'm not necessarily surprised by it, but why a college football game? I mean, do you want people to hate your movement? Do you want people to hate what you support?
Well, I'm not. I mean, in terms of being a college football game, it is Yale Harvard, but even then, it was on ESPN. It was on ESPN 3, so like I don't think anybody was really begging to watch that one.
It ended up being a really good game. Yale won in double overtime.
Did they resume the game?
Yeah, they did.
Oh shit!
So all the student protesters asked to be arrested, got handcuffed in pairs of two, and walked off the field. And then they ended up finishing the game. Yale or whoever the home team, their field actually doesn't have lights.
Okay.
So they played overtime in the dark, essentially. And Yale ended up winning 50-43 in overtime.
Well, that's a special game, I guess. But in general, I don't know. I think I side with the student protesters. In terms of, if it was any other issue, I'd probably be a little more annoyed. But for me, I'm not a one-issue voter, but kind of in the same sense with you are with the abortion debate. For me, with climate, that's enough to make or break an issue or candidate for me. Is the climate aspect. So for me, I do think it is pressing enough to where that kind of action is justified. And even if people don't agree with it, in the same way that Trump got a lot of free press coverage, even people who were upset, it's like, can you believe this? Here, look at this video and look at what they're doing. And you get that forward, I guess, traction of that movement, even if it is divisive, which I'm not sure that's the best direction long term. But in terms of making a wave, they definitely have done that. And I think over time, from at least the conservatives here on campus I've talked to, the direction is definitely changing amongst at least young conservatives in terms of climate.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I'm not saying there's absolute agreement on what needs to be done about the climate, but there's less climate change deniers, I think, amongst younger people.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, back to the protesters, again, I'm a big fan of, in terms of activism, you need to look at how people have actually been successful in generating changes on it. So what do people like Martin Luther King Jr. have to say about how you should go about activism? And his main thing was taking direct action. Yeah. So how is going to a football game, asking to get arrested, and then, talking about climate change a little, how is that direct action?
It was peaceful. It was disruptive, but it was peaceful.
For sure, but there are better ways to take direct action that are less polarizing than sitting in at the halftime of a football game. Sports of all things should be the thing that politics should stay out of. Like, I'm a big proponent of keeping politics out of sports. Like,
so then what's your take on the whole Kaepernick thing lately?
So with Kaepernick, again, it's the same thing. Like, I don't think he's necessarily wrong that there are too many instances of police brutality against African Americans in America. I think the numbers are a bit overblown. Like, I don't think it's as bad as he seems to claim it is, but I don't think he's necessarily wrong that there needs to be change for the better.
Well, I think police need to be held accountable. I
agree completely.
It's because it's a very.
And so do 93% of Americans.
Yeah.
Yet less than half of Americans support Kaepernick's movement. So why the disconnect? It's because he's interrupting. I mean, he's protesting the national anthem. He's protesting the flag, and that's a big symbol to a lot of Americans. Now, I think there are better ways he could do it. Again, it goes back to taking direct action. So instead of kneeling at a football game, I mean, Colin Kaepernick's a big enough figure, especially at this point, to where he can generate a lot of attention by doing something else. Like, say, direct action would be like kneeling in front of police stations, starting marches across the country, doing stuff like that, stuff that doesn't interrupt sports, doesn't interrupt football games. It's not that I don't want the change to happen. It's that he needs to change the way he's doing things if he wants his movement to not be polarizing.
Well, and
I don't know that that's necessarily what he wants.
He has done a lot of good movement within communities too. He and was Malcolm Jenkins for the Eagles. They've both done a lot of good cooperative work with both the police department and underserved communities in a lot of ways. So I do think in a lot of ways they do back up what they are preaching. And I mean,
I'm not saying they don't back it up. I'm saying they need to change their methods.
I think it is direct action. I mean, it gets enough attention, and they do have the platform to do it. It's definitely drawn more attention to the issue than probably
what has quantifiably changed.
That's the unfortunate part, because I think it's a systemic issue that he's protesting, and unfortunately, unless you get inside the system and change it yourself, it's not really going to change.
See, that's where I don't necessarily agree. I think if you can get the 93% of Americans who actually support a less general police brutality in America or whatever, I'll look up the exact the exact Gallup definition of whatever they were polling. Let's see if we find it real quick. But I think if you can get those Americans who support the change in regards to like just making things better, then I think you can actually generate a lot more success than Colin Kaepernick has seen. Like what he's, I mean, yes, people are more aware of the issue. That's probably the only benefit of what he's been doing. But I mean, you saw the ratings drop in the NFL in 2016.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sure. I mean, you saw how the business. I mean, NFL's a business first. They lost a lot of money because of that. There hasn't, again, like I said, there hasn't necessarily been change for the better.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I can see that, but I guess with my thing is, I get how polarizing that event can be, and
let's see.
I think the one area we can probably both agree with that on is, in general, you can feel how you want to about it, but I think Kaepernick at least has the right to protest the flag if he really wants to.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
But I hate that people are like, you can't do that. I'm like, he absolutely can, and that's what the flag stands for, is your right to do that, if you feel so implied to.
Well, there is a fine line because the NFL is a private business in which they definitely have a say in what you can or can't do while you're working for them or making money for them. So that's a different debate. But whether he should be able to, I'm very pro First Amendment.
I mean, flag burning is a big statement, but it's not illegal. It's not something you should do willy-nilly, but if you really feel so strongly about something that where you burn the flag.
If we're in a tyrannical government and there's a necessity for a revolution, by all means, that's something that should be legal and allowed. I'm not...
Yeah, and so I think that's my one gripe with a lot of folks is just saying like, he can't do it. I'm like, he absolutely can, and that's what... I mean, it's the irony of saying, hey, you can't exercise your freedom of speech in gesture and protest in this flag that represents freedom of speech, gesture, and protest.
So what'd you think about his work? Like, did you see the Stephen A. Smith video about his workout on Twitter?
I didn't see Stephen A. Smith's work. I watched footage of his workout. I didn't think it was incredibly impressive. I didn't think it was incredibly poor. I just don't know if like I said, I think he could start for probably the Dolphins, the Redskins,
which they're looking to develop younger,
those low tier teams.
Yeah,
or he could be a backup. But the problem with him being a backup is he's going to draw such a media circus around him because he's Colin Kaepernick. He's become bigger than a quarterback. He is an activist now, and it's I talked about this on the last episode too briefly, but he in a lot of ways is kind of like Tebow, but on the opposite end of it because I guess they both kneeled. I guess that's one thing but it's that just. Everybody's like, oh, when's Tebow going to go in? When's Tebow going to go in? When's Kaepernick going to go in? Because it's just
a circus.
Because you know he's there. for most of these, most casual fans can't name most of the NFL backups, but if Kaepernick's behind whoever's on the other team, people are probably going to want to see him play. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's an interesting thing, and I get why I think teams are hesitant to sign him, but
he isn't worth the money or the rate. I mean, if he was somebody like a Patrick Mahomes, he should definitely be playing.
Yeah.
But his last season, according to 538, he was like the 26th most efficient quarterback, which, like you said, you hit it right on the head. Yeah. That's bottom tier starter, top tier backup. Yeah. And now he's been out of the league for 3 years, and he's young 30s now, low 30s. Yeah. He's out of his prime. Like, there's not a ton of incentive for bad teams to really go after him because they'd rather develop a younger quarterback.
And avoid that controversy with it, too. Because, I mean, you're going to have a lot of... He's going to be a polarizing figure no matter
you don't
want
to lose your fans. The NFL fan base, for the most part, probably leans more Republican than
I'd say
the country as a whole.
It's a lot of... It's definitely... It's a stronger, maybe not even political, but more of a national... view on it. A lot of them are very pro-America in a lot of ways, mainly because I think there's a lot of veteran support. NFL does a lot of networking with veterans organizations, which, I mean, I think I come from a family of veterans, so I think it's a good thing. Yeah. But, you can see where that disconnect's going to be in terms of having Kaepernick playing and then that veteran fan base for the team probably having an issue with it. But kind of on the same note of, like, fans voting with their dollar. I'm sure you're familiar with the Chick-fil-A situation that's been going on lately. So I know you were part of FCA, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so what do you think about, because I think, didn't Chick-fil-A cut their donations?
FCA, Salvation Army, things like that. I mean, those are, people have been calling things like that anti-LGBTQ organizations, and Salvation Army is one of the biggest funders of getting people out of homelessness in the world. Like, not in the nation, in the world. Like, Salvation Army does so much good work. It's not even, for the most part, related to anything political. It's just a Christian organization that does a lot of good charity work for people. It doesn't matter who the person is. They just try their best to help out. I mean, FCA is, FCA especially, I don't understand cutting the support for that. The FCA is made up of,
well, because I think it's something with their charter, like saying that homosexual acts are not allowed or something. I think in the national charter.
General Christian belief.
So I think that was the main issue. I think with the Salvation Army, it was something with, I think, kids who got kicked out of their homes for being gay. They wouldn't take them in or something like that. It was
might be something in the charter, but that's not something that's going to be in practice.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing though, because I've noticed there's kind of a weird dichotomy because people people stop watching the NFL after things happened there, and so I'm thinking same thing with Chick-fil-A, because I think part of the reason they cut their funding was because, one, I think Popeye is starting to cut into their bottom line, and then secondly, I think it was people just stopped going there because out of protest. But I don't really think people have stopped going there out of protest. It's still America's definitely most popular food place.
They've been growing the past 2 years in terms of probably the past 10 years, honestly, but they've especially they shot up from the number 5 or 6 fast food restaurants to the number 1 last year. I mean, they've seen significant growth. And it's because, their product, they serve a great product for the most part. I mean, I'm honestly a little tired of Chick-fil-A. I ate it way too much in high school. Yeah. But, most Americans love their product. And I saw somebody said something on Twitter yesterday. It was Montre said something on Twitter the other day. It was I don't care if Chick-fil-A was donating to the KKK. I'd still go eat there.
Well,
that. I was like, and that's what it should be. Not that they shouldn't be donating to the KKK, obviously. But,
clarify that.
Yeah, but it should be whether or not you go support a business or go to a business should not be because of politics. It should be because their product is good.
Yeah,
that's another
But at the same time, I don't
think it's the responsibility of a business, unless you're explicitly involved with whatever the issue is, to take a political stance.
Yeah, and but at the same time, if, I don't know, I think that's one benefit of having an open market system. People can vote with their dollar in a lot of ways, and if they feel hey, I don't like what this business is doing, and they won't get another dollar from me until they change it. I'm hey,
why are you complaining? Just don't go there.
I think at least here in Texas State, which I guess is kind of more of a left-leaning bubble, but Chick-fil-A has definitely not been as popular, I guess, at least amongst the politically active folks.
Well, y'all probably just eat avocado toast all day.
you millennials and whatnot, yeah. Oh man, yeah, no. Ugh. Don't even get me started on Fox News bashing millennials.
Steak and burgers all day, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So
red meat.
so on the same note of meat, let's talk Turkey Day. Let's talk Thanksgiving.
Okay, yeah.
So of course, great time for football, right? And so you got 3 games that day, and I want to get your thoughts. If you were a betting man and you had to bet on the 3 games, so the first game is the afternoon game is Bears Lions, and then the later game is Bills Cowboys, and then the Thursday night games can be Saints Falcons. Who are you taking for those 3 games?
So to clarify, I obviously can't bet on this because I do play baseball at Austin College.
Of course,
so that violates NCAA rules. I'm not betting on these games.
But if you were a betting man, if you were one who bets, which you never would, but...
Oh, I just have to clarify so I don't get James Wiseman. No.
Yeah.
No, that situation's stupid, but the Bears, it's hard. You can't bet on the Bears. Like, the Bears are just the Bears. There's not, I mean, I don't really think you have to say anything else. I feel bad for people like Kyle Lewis who are Bears fans.
Yeah.
Like, there's just... I mean, it's not as bad as the Browns or the Dolphins, but...
Talk about a miserable fan base being the Browns. You really think you're about to come back and have finally a renaissance year, and it's just worse than it was last year.
I mean, both these teams are just mediocre.
Yeah.
I'm honestly going to say that I'll go with the Lions just because...
Yeah, I mean,
Mitch Trubisky sucks.
Yeah. I mean, as a Packers fan, I hate to see both these teams win, but... I don't know, because...
Who helps y'all the most?
I think their records are about the same, so it's kind of a lose-lose.
I don't really think either of them are threatening.
I don't know. Because the Lions still don't have Trubisky, or don't have Stafford.
Yeah, Jeff Driscoll played pretty good last week, though.
Yeah, so I probably take Lions over Bears. Okay, what about Bills Cowboys? Cowboys have been one of the most inconsistent teams in the league.
Yeah.
So who are you going to take?
Out of spite, I want to say the Bills, but
yeah, I don't.
Honestly, the Bills have had
The Bills have been
kind of a surprise this year.
They've been consistently like B rating. They've been good but not great.
Both of these teams have kind of been paper tigers. Like their strength of schedule has been very weak in regards to. I mean, their wins are against nobody teams. Like the Bills have the Jets and the Dolphins, and the Cowboys have the Giants and the Redskins played twice this season. And plus neither of them have had really very many quality wins or just like something that just stands out on the resume. It's hard to gauge how successful these teams will be in the playoffs if they end up getting in. Which I think the Bills are probably a 6th seed, and the Cowboys probably win the division if they can get past the Eagles next time they play.
The East is a pretty weak division. NFC East is very weak.
Both Easts are.
I guess AFC
got
as well.
The Patriots
just ruled over that division.
Which that'll be a good game. I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. I don't like to say it, but I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. And then Saints Falcons, I'm gonna go Saints all day.
Yeah, but the Falcons upset them last time they played. Pretty embarrassingly.
It was a blowout. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm wondering where that could go. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure the Saints probably learned a game plan around it, but the Falcons definitely shocked them to begin off that first game. So it's gonna be what for you? Lions, Cowboys, Saints.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the Bills can beat the Cowboys.
I think they can too.
I think they can. It's just a matter of if they're going to show up or not. If Josh Allen's going to play remotely well or not, because he's been very hit or miss all season.
For sure. How do you do today? I need to check that in fantasy real quick. But yeah.
So, and I guess we'll cap off this episode with a very corny Thanksgiving kind of thing. What is one thing you're thankful for?
Definitely friends and family, just in general. I've been able to see a lot of good opportunities come to light because of the people who've been around me, and I'm very thankful that I've had all the support I've had from both my friends and family in getting to where I am today and just helping me out along the road.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm going to probably say friends and family as well. I think, but also I would like to thank you listeners out there who listen to Sam Mo Show, who support us every week, retweet our stuff. I really do appreciate it, considering that this just started with a college kid in his dorm room who really wanted to have a podcast, and it's really grown a lot, and I've got to meet great people who, I've never even met before outside of the podcast or interacted with a lot of interesting fans in the community. And I'm incredibly thankful for y'all listening and supporting the show. And I'm also, it wouldn't have started without my friends. My roommate last year, Garrett Watkins, supported me and helped me really brainstorm ideas for the show. And, of course, just all my friends who also just back me, support me a lot. You guys are great. And it's been a great year so far. And I'm happy for the opportunities, both the show and I guess just college in general provided for me. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with how you put everything together.
Thank you.
All the hard work, and I've listened to a few of the episodes. Like off the top of my head, I listened to the first one. I listened to the one with Josh more. I listened to the one with Jet.
Yeah.
I've listened to a couple this year.
Yeah.
Like, it's been good.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I've been trying to.
Oh, the one with Malik, I listened to that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, funny enough, I went back through some old episodes a couple weeks ago, and like I think personally, like at least the quality has improved in my opinion. But I mean, I hear in my own voice has changed in terms of like those first episodes. I sounded very nervous, kind of rushed, and now I feel like I'm definitely more relaxed for this format, and hopefully can bring the listeners better content. But yeah, I've always definitely taken pride in like putting this all together. There's been plenty of very late nights and very early mornings.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
Cutting and editing and putting stuff together, but it is definitely a labor of love in a lot of ways. I love doing this. It's definitely. I don't get tired of doing it. That's the thing too. People are like, oh, it doesn't get annoying. I'm like, well, yeah, of course you get tired doing late nights and stuff, but I love to put things out, and it's good to know that, with some of the fans, again, like, they say they listen every week. My friend Jaron, shout out for listening. Like, he delivers pizzas on Friday nights, and the episodes come out on the Friday, and he loves driving around listening to them and stuff. So I'm glad I can make somebody's day just a little bit better.
Yeah, Jaron's very great about supporting people. I see stuff on Twitter all the time. Him backing Malik.
Oh, he's a great friend. Yeah, absolutely.
Or you. I mean, I'm very impressed with all the stuff he's been doing to back people out of this area.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a great friend to have.
So do you ever, like, I go through spurts in my writing where I just like don't want to do anything for a few weeks, and all of a sudden I'll have like random motivation. It's like, since this is a weekly show, how do you get through that?
I think I'd definitely be lying if I had the same motivation for every week, but there's definitely times where I get these big creativity bursts and stuff. I mean, I guess the Halloween special I did a couple weeks back, I was having so much fun doing that because I was thinking about like fun musical things or stuff I could put together with the show. I enjoyed that one a lot. And in general, I mean, I guess beyond the podcast too, when it comes to just writing or even political things or for student government, like I definitely work off bursts of creativity or something like that. And I think from week to week, I think it's just trying to remember why you started this in the first place and remember the people that you're doing it for. That's definitely helped me out a lot. Like guys like Jaron and stuff, where I'm like, hey, they're counting on me to, put this episode out and make it entertaining. And like I said, like I love to meet the new people and everything with that.
For sure. Yeah, just the connections you can make from doing stuff like writing or from doing podcasts or just getting yourself out into the world are amazing. Like, there's just
the internet's definitely
all sorts of opportunities out there, just to promote yourself. I mean, this isn't about self-promotion necessarily. It's about putting together something that you're proud of and that you want to ultimately be successful, that you can like use to put on your resume and translate to something else later in life, give you good experience.
And I love doing this, and I'm glad other people like hearing it. Like that's my main bottom line with it. It's just I'm glad other people enjoy listening to this. So John, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on, man. Anything else you'd like to say before we wrap things up?
Just like old times.
But just like old times back in Kirchhoff's class.
Annoying everyone else in the classroom probably.
Having our political debates. God.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been a while, man.
It really has.
Time has flown by. Well, hey, it was great catching up with you, man. Have a happy Thanksgiving, both you and the listeners. And make sure to follow us on Twitter at SanMoShow if you want San more. And make sure to take the time today to tell the people that you love that you're thankful for them. And I will see you guys in the next one. Have a happy Thanksgiving.